Hi everyone, Jake here, welcome to the video and welcome back to another one-off rebuild video. We've done a few so far in the period of FM22, but it's been a little while since we've done one. We had to finish off that Wolfsburg series, the Wolfsburg save, but now here we are, ready to do the next rebuild, and today's club is none other than my hometown, Leicester City Football Club. Now a lot of you might be seeing Leicester and thinking, why do they need a rebuild? That's ridiculous, they've been doing amazingly, and I fully agree with that. Over the last few years, Leicester have been nothing but sensational over the last decade or so. The steps that club has made is insane, so obviously me doing a rebuild is nothing about the club of Leicester. I just like picking a club in these videos and just seeing what we can do with them, and why not do my hometown. It's one that a lot of my friends from back home have asked me to do, so I figured why not go around and do it. So we are with Leicester City, a club that of course has won the Premier League and has been in the Champions League in recent years, but only 10 or so years ago were down in League One. They've got promoted, they've got plenty of cult heroes within their squad. However, I think with the squad they've currently got, it seems like they're kind of at the peak of where they're going to get with that. So we're planning to take the squad that we've already got, enhance it a little bit and see how far we can take them. Before we get into that though, I'd like to ask you guys if you could smash that like button. It really does help, particularly in these videos. The rebuild videos are the way that a lot of people get into the channel in the first place. So if you are seeing this for the first time, or if you've been a long time viewer of the channel, hit the like button and help share it to as many people as possible. Comment down below your suggestions for the next rebuild and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are here and you like Football Manager content and you're not subscribed, I say why not? A lot of you guys will hopefully enjoy what we're doing here. Let's play style stuff, plenty more rebuilds. As we get close to 7,000 subscribers, I'd appreciate anyone who hits that button. But there we go, I think we've done everything that we need to. We've covered all the admin stuff, and now it's time to take stock of our situation here at Leicester at the start of the save. We're taking over from Brendan Rodgers, our captain is Schmeichel, vice-captain Evans, key player Tielemans, and hot prospect Ben Nelson. We've got state-of-the-art training facilities, state-of-the-art youth facilities, and a 4-star reputation. Over here in Leicester, the facilities are pretty much considered to be the Harry Maguire facilities almost, because it was the money that Leicester made from that transfer that they invested supposedly into these facilities, and they are a phenomenal club now, with the media predicting them to finish 5th in the league. However, we know if you play Football Manager, Leicester aren't going to finish that high really. The game seems to favour your traditional top 6, Wolves and Leeds as well, higher than Leicester in most of the simulations I've done. So there's work to be done here to sort the club out to a level where we can actually compete in game with the likes of Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United and Liverpool. We've got 5 years to see what we can do with the club. My ideal end to this would be being a consistent Champions League team, maybe pushing on for the later stages of the Champions League, winning a couple competitions here and there, maybe even being back in with a title race in the Premier League, but that's quite a long shot based on the way that the clubs in Football Manager tend to do what they do in real life, which is just get better and better each year, and the gap just seems to become wider from those top few and the rest of us down at the bottom. The staff situation's looking good, but we'll need a little bit of development. There's not too many standout players in our under 23s and under 18s, so I guess we'll only really look at that as they start to come through, but the squad as a whole isn't too bad. Tactically, we're going to look to play a 4-3-3 using this system. I might adjust it as time goes by, but if we have a look at what our best 11 would be before signings with this tactic, we're looking at a good goalie in Schmeichel, a pretty strong back 4, although you could suggest that Evans, being an aging centre-back, is going to be quite injury-prone, and it might be time to replace him. Ndidi and Tielemans are class players, but they could also fetch us a big fee if we wanted to invest that money into the squad. Vardy, of course, getting older. Mark Albrighton, like Vardy, getting older, both still quality players, but can they contribute for the 5 years of this simulation? I would guess not. England international Harvey Barnes will be a big player, Maddison, Iheanacho, Soyuncu, James Justin. There's a lot of good players in this squad, but there's also a lot of deadwood that I think I might try and sell. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall could be a player that we use a bit. I don't know how well he's rated in this year's Football Manager, but I do know, where is he? Luke Thomas is very highly rated this year in FM, and I think maybe by the time he's 23, 24, we could be looking at a very good Premier League level left back, or at least someone that might make us a little bit of money. This tactic, I suppose, doesn't really get the best out of James Maddison, but we'll see what we do. We might adjust it as we go. But I think the first thing to do with this squad is to start making some transfers. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoy it, and let's head over to see the business that we do in Season 1. So here we are after we've made the transfers. Just to let you in on the situation financially at the club, we've got £23 million in the balance, a £5 million budget left over, and in terms of debts, and loans. There's not too much debt in the transfer debt, but the net debt is quite big. The majority of it is loans from the chairman as opposed to the bank, but there is still a pretty significant bank loan that we need to try and pay off during this simulation. But I don't think the way that we do these simulations, we're going to do that because of how much we end up spending. Because, you know, we've got 5 years, we've got to do something with the club here. So let's have a look at the business that we have done. So starting off with the outgoings, I suggested there was a bit of dead wood that I'd be happy to get rid of. The first sale was actually quite a surprising one, with Daniel Armati leaving the club for Shakhtar. Now, on paper, he doesn't look like a bad player. I know he's a fairly versatile option for the Leicester side in real life, but is he that good? I don't know. And when we transfer listed him, I was expecting £5 million offers. So to get 15 million from Shakhtar, I was happy to let him go. And I didn't actually think he'd accept it. So I'm happy he's walked out the door. That's a big bit of money to bring into the club. We then sold Hamza Chowdhury to Southampton, a player that looked like he could have had some significant potential in this Leicester side. But over recent years, that's kind of dwindled out, and we have let him go to another Premier League side who will hopefully get the better out of him. We're not going to use him too much, so we have moved him on. Ayoze Perez has moved over to Nice. The former Newcastle man was signed for big money, did okay that first season, not so much the second, and wasn't really going to get a look in based on the transfers that we bought in that you'll see in a second. We've got £10.75 million out of him, which I think is not a bad deal yet again, and Johnny Evans was probably the biggest loss of the club. We have sold a 33-year-old to Monaco for £8.5 million. I listed him just to see what kind of offers we'd get, and when you're being offered that much money for a man who's very injury prone, was likely not going to feature all that much under me because I think I was going to favour Fofana and Soyuncu, I thought, you know what, we'll take the money while we can because he's only going to get older, and at that point we're probably not going to be able to do too much with Johnny Evans. You'll also see we've loaned out Fabio Carvalho, who isn't actually a player who plays for Leicester, and that's because we've only just signed him from Fulham and loaned him straight back out there for the coming season. We signed him for £29.5 million. He's valued at over 50. The 18-year-old is an amazing player in real life that the likes of Liverpool seemingly look like they're going to pick up in the next transfer window, but to have these kind of attributes at the age of 18, I'm sure he's going to tear up the Championship. Then we can bring him in to that first team squad just to lower the age of some of our attackers. And we've also brought through one of the best Football Manager Wonderkids of this year, because we have signed Rooney Bargi from FC Copenhagen. The 15-year-old has some amazing attributes right from the bat. Due to work permit issues and the fact that he can only join when he's 18, we're not going to see him for a good 3 or 4 years, but hopefully then the club will have settled down and this guy will be a good enough player to play on the wing. He's of course got plenty of potential, plenty of resale value, and to get him for the price that say Ayoze Perez left for, I think is good business. So that's the team. You can see we did try and bring in a player at centre-back in Gianluca Mancini, but it didn't quite work out. So this is our squad. I think it's pretty good. It's quite balanced. There's good quality everywhere, decent backups in most positions. We'll see how we get on in this first season and assess it from there. So let's fast forward to the end of season 1 to see how we've got on. Okay, so here we are, our first season roundup, and it's not been a terrible one. It's not been completely amazing, but I think we'll take it on the face of things. We have won the Community Shield as Leicester did in real life. We got to the quarterfinals of the Carabao, where we should have got further, getting knocked out by Luton. In the FA Cup, we got to the semi-finals, only to be knocked out by Liverpool, who I would guess were eventual champions, and they were, so that's not too bad to get knocked out by them. The Europa League was fairly disappointing. We only got to the first knockout round where Zenit St. Petersburg knocked us out. Because we didn't get knocked out in the groups, it means that we don't actually go into the Euro Conference League or anything like that, so we don't get any European football action for the rest of the season. However, next year we will be in that competition because we finished 7th in the league on 58 points, ahead of Tottenham, ahead of Aston Villa, but quite a while behind the top 6, which featured West Ham and the rest of the usual big 6 minus Tottenham in this case. In terms of a points tally, it's not the world's best, but it's also not terrible either. If we do have a look at the Premier League, you can see how many we won and lost. We won 16, drew 10 and lost 12, so I think that goes to show our defence might be leaking a few too many goals. Our goal difference is also not high enough for my liking. In terms of who was playing best for us, it seems Jamie Vardy was a good player this year, scoring 22 goals. Patson Daka and James Maddison were our best performing players. Maddison and Barnes with all of the assists. I've filtered the squad here by average match rating, and you can see who is really pulling the strings for us. Nice to see Fofana playing well because I think he is probably the best player in this whole squad in terms of what we're looking for in terms of the team we want to build, being a Champions League competitive team. Fofana is definitely a player that can be of that level, but there's some players that really did disappoint. Luke Thomas, we set him to play pretty much every game to try and develop him as much as possible, but it wasn't the best season for the young Englishman. Maybe he'll get better as time goes on, but right now he's just not at the level we'd want him to be. Youri Tielemans as well. He did score a fair few goals, but overall the average match rating wasn't good enough from Youri Tielemans, who is a player that would have played very often, so for him not to do very well isn't great. Same with Ndidi. If you could get good money for them too, I think I could reinvest it better. You'll see that the tactic was adjusted to a 4-2-3-1 as time went by because I wanted to get the best out of James Maddison, and I think we've started to do that. The players that you can see here already slotted into positions are the ones I kind of want to play as often as possible and build around, so that's what we've got currently, but let's see if we can improve on it in the Season 2 transfer window. Can we make this squad a Champions League squad? Okay guys, here we are, the second season transfer window, and we have kind of gone crazy in the transfer market. What you're seeing on screen here is just a few of the transfers that were made since we took over. Obviously, we knew about Fabio Carvalho, we knew about some of the sales here, but starting from Kelechi Iheanacho, we have sold a bunch more players. As I just said, Iheanacho has left and he has joined Tottenham for £36 million, which I think is great business on our end. The Nigerian played 29 games for us last season, only scored 5. I'll take 36 million. I can definitely reinvest that, considering the fact that I actually think Jamie Vardy and Patson Daka are better options in Football Manager. We'll take that money for Iheanacho. Kaglas Leunchu suggested he wanted to leave the club, so when Chelsea came in for about £35 million, I just had to accept it. He was good last year, didn't play every game, wasn't a crucial player for us, and as good as he does look on paper now, looking at his attributes, he wanted to go. Chelsea wanted him. I don't mind too much. Leicester are a club that are smart with their business, sell players when they're in their peak to get the money and then reinvest it into the squad, but also the club itself. Ryan Bertrand has also left for £1.5 million to Celtic, but we did not stop there. You can see there's another £81 million worth of sales. The first one being Papi Mendy has went to join Dynamo Moscow out in the Russian Premier Division. 3.6 million for him wasn't a lot of money, but considering he only played 7 times last season, played well when he was on, but the 30-year-old just isn't at the level that we want, and to get some money for him as opposed to letting him go on a free at the end of the season was a good deal. Club legend Mark Albrighton has left to join Hoffenheim for 2 mil, but then it's where it gets a bit crazy now. We are selling a lot of the people that Leicester fans would consider the core of their squad, but you've got to consider the fact that we're pushing for the Champions League. We've only got 5 years, so don't be sad if your favourite player here was sold. We need to make as much money as possible and just reinvest into the squad the best way we can. And I think when you see the signings we bought in, you won't mind too much, but we have sold Youri Tielemans to PSG for £56 million. We mentioned that last season he wasn't as good as he probably should have been. You know, if you get offered £56 million for a player, you're going to consider it no matter who it is. And when it was Youri Tielemans, I thought, you know what, as good as he is, again, I think I can reinvest it. He's a great player. I just think he was always destined to leave at some point, and we'll take 56 million. We can do something with that. His contract was getting towards its end date as well. He didn't want to sign. We'll take the money. Kasper Schmeichel has left for £5 million to join Lazio, a goalkeeper that I think many people rate heavily, but at 35 years old, to get any money for him and reinvest it into a younger goalkeeper, we were going to have to do it at some point in the simulation. Why not do it now when we can get some cash for him? Dennis Pratt came back from loan and we sold him straight away to Lyon for £11.25 million, and Jamie Vardy suggested it was time to try out a new challenge. I said, you know what, Jamie? I'm not really going to stand in your way. As a Leicester legend, we let him go. He has gone to Manchester City. I doubt he's going to play too much. He was a great player for us last year, so he's going to take a lot to replace him. £2.9 million is not a lot of money, but when you consider he's 35, Man City are probably barely going to use him. He's fell down the pecking order of our best players, and it's like, you know what? Go on, Jamie, you go. We'll reinvest. So, reinvest we did. Let's start with the cheapest signings and move up. So the first one that we are looking at is Kiro Despedov from Ludogorets, a Bulgarian to provide cover on both wings. If you kind of class him as your Mark Albrighton replacement, to get a player way younger, way better quality for only a couple £1 million more than Mark Albrighton, I think that's a good bit of business. He's going to be useful on both wings, plenty of experience for the Bulgarian national team, and he's been smashing it for Ludogorets out in Bulgaria, so hopefully he can do the same in the Premier League. We then bought in a player from Rangers. We've bought in Joe Aribo, a central attacking midfielder, Nigerian, for around £13 million. He's done well for Rangers. I don't expect him to play every single game for us, but he'll be a good backup and a good player to suit Leicester's team. 6'2", good physically and good across the park. I'm impressed with Aribo and I think he'll be a good goal scorer behind our front man. Then we have brought in a defender, Umar Soleil from RB Salzburg, a French under-21 international. That says a lot about this man. He can play at the back or in defensive midfield. At the age of 22, he's got room to grow, and I think we got a bargain with this guy. I class him as kind of a Soyuncu replacement, 6'4", physically imposing, great mentally and great technically, with a lot of room to improve. £50 million is a bargain for this man, and I think he'll do wonders for us. We have then signed the Wonderkid Striker that everybody talks about in FM and is starting to become a real handful in real life too. Benjamin Sesko has also joined from RB Salzburg. The Slovenian, with 15 caps and 8 goals for the national team, smashed it last year out in Austria. Salzburg have had Haaland, they then sold on Adeyemi, and then the next one to come through was Benjamin Sesko. We've picked him up, so hopefully he'll be as good as them two were, but I think he'll be a good backup striker, replaces Vardy. I think Daka will be our first choice striker, and Sesko can back him up. We've then spent pretty big money on a centre-back from Benfica, Lucas Varisimo, as a 27-year-old Brazilian who is as elite players come for this kind of price range. He's got what he needs to be a great player for us right now, while the likes of Soleil bed into the team. I think he's going to be a great partner to Fofana, plenty of experience and a big game player to say the least. Now the signings that I think Leicester fans would be getting excited by, if all the others didn't excite you, hopefully this one will. Houssem Aouar. This man has caps for the French national team. That tells you everything you need to know about how good he is. He can play behind the striker or in that midfield pivot. Very good technically, mentally and physically. He's been wanted by United, Liverpool and Arsenal over recent years, if you were to believe the transfer rumours, and he's been great out in Ligue 1 for Lyon, and for £30 million I think we've got ourselves a great player whose prime years are still ahead of him, a real big talent, a real big coup for this Leicester side, but one that might even be a little bit bigger is stealing a player off what could potentially be rivals for Europa League, Champions League places in Football Manager at least. In Leeds, we have signed their best player, Rafinha. The Brazilian has been tearing up the Premier League in real life. He's been one of Leeds' most key players since their rise to the Premier League. They've signed him for 20 million from Rennes. We've signed him for 40. He's going to be a top draw player, I'm sure of it. I don't need to say too much more about this man. He's got plenty of years left ahead of him. I think that's a top signing, but one where we did have to pay a little bit more money was for our goalkeeping position, where we have signed what will likely be the lifelong goalkeeper of this squad whilst we're in charge over these 5 years. It's Anatoly Trubin, one of the best Wonderkid goalkeepers in FM22. He's Champions League side Shakhtar Donetsk's first team goalkeeper. You can't say too much more about him, and he's got plenty of room to improve. We signed him for about 45 million and he's now valued at around 100. So it does go to show how good of a deal we have got here with this guy. He will grow as the club grows, and I think that is a great signing for us. But how is this going to affect the team? What can we do going forward? If we were to pick our best 11 without any restrictions, let's have a look how it sets up now. We're looking at Trubin, Fofana, Varisimo, Thomas, Pereira, Aouar, Ndidi, Maddison, Barnes, Rafinha and Daka. It's a very good team to look at. We've lowered the age. We've also got rid of some of those players that were clogging up the wages. We've managed to reinvest it into the squad. I'm happy with what we've done here, but let's see if it improves our table position after season 2. Okay, here we are, the end of our second season, and we have finished 2 spots higher in 5th place. It's only 3 points more than where we finished before, and our goal difference is a lot less than anybody else around us. However, we'll take a 5th place spot. That's going to mean a lot for the club getting a Europa League spot. So I am classing this as a semi-successful season. The Conference League, we got to the semi-final where we were beaten by Utrecht, which I think we should definitely have beaten. 4th round of the FA Cup, we went out to Norwich, and Liverpool knocked us out of a cup competition, yet again knocking us out of the Carabao Cup. It's been a decent season for some of our players. We won't hang around too long because nothing was really achieved this year, but you can see the players have performed the best for us this year. Harvey Barnes with 24 goals is very impressive, the inside forward on that left-hand side. James Justin, Pereira, Ndidi, Soleil, Rafinha, Despedov, Sesko, Varisimo are some of our best players this year. The disappointment players are Luke Thomas, who I'm starting to lose a bit of patience with, Dewsbury Hall, Boubacar Samare and Fabio Carvalho, who did come back from his loan out at Fulham and this year played 17 times, didn't play too bad, still got plenty of talent and plenty of room left to grow. His valuation is far higher than what we signed him for, so far that signing is still a success. 15 goals for Aouar in all competitions in midfield too, and 13 from James Maddison. It's been a good year. Let's see if we can improve on it in the season 3 transfers. Okay, so transfers have been kept a lot more minimal this time round. I think the squad we've got is a younger squad now. We're building it to a level where we want them to grow as the club grows, so nothing drastic needs to be done at this stage. But Daniel Iverson, a backup goalkeeper, has been sold to West Ham. He's gone for £3 million, and we have signed Ruben Neves as our big signing of the summer from Wolves. We've bought him in for £29 million. He was on the transfer list at Wolves. I think he makes a good option in that midfield and is far better than both Samare and Dewsbury Hall. As much as I like Dewsbury Hall in real life, in Football Manager, he's not quite cutting it for me in the simulation. So I think Neves will be a good player for us. Adam Holzek has also been bought in from Sparta Prague, only costing us £8 million. He's been tearing it up in the Czech divisions. I think this is a great piece of business, one that a team like Leicester could likely do in real life and really pull it off and sell him on for a profit. The player is classed as a Wonderkid, is an experienced international already at the age of 20, and I'm sure will contribute heavily to the way that our side plays. Two fairly important sales from the club were Yannick Vestergaard, who was the less important of the two. He has left the club after only appearing 3 times last year. For £2 million, he's gone to Mexican club Cruz Azul in what will be classed as a failure of a transfer, I would suggest, for Leicester to sign him for £14 million from Southampton. Could have worked, could have not came off, and I think in this situation it didn't come off. However, we have sold a big player, Wilfred Ndidi. He wanted to go. Real Madrid came in, his head was turned, and he had no intention of staying at the club. £34 million for the man isn't a bad deal when you consider that he hasn't actually played amazingly for us. I mean, 28 games played, an average rating of 6.87 in the league, 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 player of the match. Not the best from Ndidi. I don't think he's going to be a starter at Real Madrid, and you kind of take that money and we'll see what we can do with it. Of course, we pretty much invested into Ruben Neves and still had money left over. Similar age players, fairly similar profiles, except Ndidi is obviously more defensively inclined, whereas Neves is more of a playmaker. And considering we're using a team that has a deep line playmaker, I think Neves suits it perfectly. Looking at what our best 11 will be currently, the game suggests this is what we'd go with. I think that's a very good team to look at. I think we're working our way towards being a competitive team, but we just need a few more key quality players that didn't really come around in the window this time. Nothing was really available. That seemed like the right move, but let's see if this team can improve in season 3 and see where we finish. Okay, this is certainly an improvement of a season. I'm very happy with this actually. We have finished 5th in the league yet again, but this time on 65 points, so we have managed to get about a 10-point gain on where we first started in the first season. But what I'm liking the most is not only a semi-final of the Europa League competition, but we've won our first trophy. We've won a Carabao Cup. Now in the last decade or so, Leicester have won the League, the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, as well as the Community Shield. They've completed the domestic haul. Very happy with that. I know it's not the competition that they would have dreamed of winning, but it was a good win for us, beating Manchester United 5-3 in the final. I think that is pretty impressive. I've headed over to the game so you can see the goal scorers, but Maddison, Barnes and Daka, some of the original players from the Leicester side we inherited, got the goals for us. It was a good performance overall, and whilst we did leak goals, it wasn't too bad. The facilities are starting to get a little bit worse, so we do need to improve that, but I do like the way that the club is shaping up. I think we've done a good job with them, and I think the next few years will be very important in seeing whether we can make this team a consistent Champions League top 6 mainstay. Just to note, Carvalho got some more appearances this year and looked a lot better in terms of average match ratings. Luke Thomas had a much better season, was one of our better players this year. However, it was Fofana, Pereira and Benjamin Sesko who were our best players. Patson Daka scored 27, so don't rule him out as being a good player, but it might be the time to sell him on, with the young Sesko looking like he's ready to hit the Premier League. At the age of 21, to score 10 goals in 19 Premier League appearances and play better than most of the older players ahead of you were, I think it might be time to give this man a chance. So let's see what we do in the transfer window. Let's see if we can take this team to the Champions League spots in season 4. Okay, so this time we've focused a lot on bringing in real quality as compared to bringing in a variety of players to beef up the squad. I think we've got to the point where the squad is just ready for a few more key players and then we'll be a Champions League side, and I think we've done exactly that. Firstly, I did mention I think it might be time for Sesko to take over as the main striker. Adam Holzek, who we signed last year from Sparta Prague, is also looking good, so they will be our 2 striker options. And then when we got an offer for 71 million from Manchester United for Patson Daka, I love the guy, but for 30 goals over 2 years, you take £71 million, don't you? I think that's good business on our end, a good deal. He moves on and Sesko will take the reins up front. And also Danny Ward has gone to Everton, so good luck to him. The backup goalkeeper has moved on. The young player that we signed in season 1 is finally with us. An 18-year-old already capped for the Swedish national team and scoring once, was signed for £10 million. He's been smashing it for Copenhagen even though he's only 18. He's not one of the better players at the club yet, but we'll see what happens with him. He's definitely one for the future and not one to worry about right now, but one that I think will make a massive improvement. Is arguably one of Southampton's best players in real life this year, alongside probably Kyle Walker-Peters and Ward-Prowse. Tino Livramento, former Chelsea prospect, has been smashing it in real life and in this simulation has been key for Southampton in the Premier League since signing. He's played pretty much every game for them, has consistently hit 7 average match ratings, which we know from Luke Thomas doesn't always happen with a young fullback. I think this guy's going to be immense for us because of how good he is going forward. He can do the defensive work as well, but I think on that wing-back, on attack role, he's going to create a lot of chances for the head of Sesko up front. So we've signed him for 65 million, big money, but he is English, he's 21, one of the best players in the league in his position, and his valuation is way higher than what we signed him for. I think that is good business on our end. We've made a bit of profit on Kiro Despedov, who we signed for £5 million from Ludogorets. We've sold him after plenty of games for the club actually, where he's not done too bad. We've sold him for £18.5 million to Almeria in the Spanish First Division, where he is going to be their best player by a long distance. Joe Aribo, who we signed from Rangers for £13 million, has been a good squad player, but it was time for him to move on, and he has gone to AEK for £15.5 million. Dewsbury Hall has left for Bournemouth on a free. Like I say, he's not really rated in Football Manager the way that he's been playing in real life. When simulating, it seems like he was never getting picked, so it was about time for him to move on and to go to a Premier League club in Bournemouth. Is good news for him, I suppose. He will get the football that he probably does deserve. And James Justin was a surprising one. As much as I wanted to tie him down to the club, he wanted to go somewhere where he was going to be a starter, kind of forced our hand on that Livramento transfer, and he's gone to Marseille on a free. Had no interest in signing a new deal, but as you can see, he wasn't playing as much in the most recent season. I would have liked to have kept him, but he had other options in his mind, so he has gone. And Arthur has been signed from Juventus. He was on the transfer list, £22.5 million, gives us some depth in the midfield. A good player, not the world's best, but he could definitely do a job for us when needed in that midfield. Here's what our best 11 is looking like now, with Livramento as the best player at the club alongside Fofana. We've got a great back line now with one of the world's best young goalies, an amazing young back four who are all of an incredible level. Neves and Aouar with Rafinha, Maddison, Barnes and Sesko. This is a team that could potentially tear it up this year. We might need a bit more depth because there's really not enough to cover that. The dev centre hasn't been producing too many good young players, so we might need to do a little bit of work in the depth department. But the team's ready to go. We've got a very strong first 11. Hopefully we can do something this year in the Premier League. Okay, here we are, 2025, and it feels like we're cursed. We're in that 5th place spot yet again, still the big top 4 ahead of us, but 71 points is far better than any other season. We've been pushed to our limits, but we have outplayed the likes of Arsenal, Newcastle, West Ham, Tottenham and Everton to that 5th place spot. 71 points in previous seasons would have got us top 4, but this year it wasn't to be. But when you actually look at the gap between us and the top, it's closed a lot. We were about 30 points off in season 1, but now it's only between us and top of the table Chelsea. What's that, 15 points? That's not too bad at all in my eyes. As predicted, some of our young players are really coming to form now. Benjamin Sesko with 32 goals in all competitions, 26 goals in the Premier League, makes him one of the best strikers in the league. He's physical up front, he causes problems, he's great in the air, and the 22-year-old is only going to get better. Tino Livramento was the best player of the season for us, playing absolutely phenomenally on the 7.6 average match rating, way higher than we've seen anyone get to so far in the simulation for our Leicester side. The young 18-19-year-old Swede Rooney Bargi, who he signed in season 1 for 10 million, got the most assists for us this year, had a great season in the Premier League, played plenty of times, and is going to be a top player for us going forward. Although we did do well in the league, the cup competitions weren't as impressive, and maybe that's why we had a better chance in the league, because we weren't finishing on too many other fronts. So I guess it swings and roundabouts really, but I think it's a much better year for us. You can see a lot more wins compared to what we were getting before. Only 5 draws, 11 losses, winning double that amount in 22 wins with 33 goal difference better than Manchester City. That's something to be proud of, but let's see how we get on. We've got one more season to go. Can the transfers that we make a big enough difference to help us win the league? Cross your fingers. I'm hoping it can. Let's bring some glory to Leicester City Football Club. So, transfers wise, for our final season, let's get into it. Before we do, I'd like to ask you guys, if you are enjoying, don't forget to like, but also subscribe if you haven't already. We've been aiming for 7,000 subscribers on the channel for a little while, and we're getting so close now. I know a lot of people watching these rebuilds might be new to the channel, so if you are enjoying this, we're going to do more regularly, but let me know you enjoy it by subscribing and liking, and then I'll make some more. But we have lost a player who has been around the club for a while now. Boubakary Soumaré, the former Lille man, has moved on to Sporting for £18.5 million, but fear not, he wasn't playing too much, and we've replaced him with a far better player from the Portuguese divisions where we sold him to, in Vitinha. He is one of the best players in the Portuguese division when we signed him, playing for Porto and being absolutely phenomenal, by the way. Those average match ratings, if you're not really interested in Football Manager and you don't know, this is impeccable. This is like Benzema, Messi, Ronaldo level average match ratings. They're so good for an attacking player. £43.5 million for this guy. He is definitely one of the best midfielders in the squad. On a rating of 1 to 20, these attributes are, and so many of them, are at an incredible level. Better than Neves, better than Solé, probably better than Aouar too. I think we've got a top player. Portuguese international with 25 appearances at the age of 25. He is top draw. We've also signed a backup goalkeeper in Oliver Bowman, just for the fact that we needed one. The squad depth was getting very light, and then we finished off with a couple of other players who have purely been brought in for the fact that we needed some depth. Nathan Ake was a free agent from Manchester City. We've brought him in. He might not play at all, but he's worth having around the club. And same with Serginho Dest. The American was let go by Barcelona. We've brought him in for free. He's valued at 20 odd million pounds. When we signed him, we got a message to say it's brought a lot of interest from the USA fan base, so that's good to see. At least we're bringing in some extra fans, but here is what would likely be our best 11, at least I think it is. Let me just double check. But here we go. This is what the best 11 is considered to be by Football Manager. If you don't know as well, these star ratings don't take them into account too much. They are representative based on other players at the club and not actually representative of how good the player is, if that makes sense. So in this case, it's just telling us that Livramento is the best player in the club and the worst player in the starting 11 would be what? Some kind of average between Maddison, Thomas, Ruben Neves, whatever it might be. But it's a very strong team now. Fofana has become one of the best centre-backs in the world, wanted by Manchester United, and why wouldn't he be? He is top draw. Anatoly Trubin, whilst he is only 2.5 star apparently, is one of the better goalkeepers in the league and has been playing very well for us since signing, and he's now wanted by who? He's wanted by Tottenham, but I don't know why he would take the step back to join them. I get a lot of comments, people saying, why do you hate Tottenham? I'm just a Chelsea fan, alright? It's just fun to make Tottenham jokes every now and then, the same way they'd make jokes about us, about Arsenal, about whoever it might be. Tino Livramento, look at him, 22 years old. This guy is the real deal, and I'm hoping he'll carry us to glory this year. I don't know what I'm expecting. We're not in the Champions League in the final season, so I don't know what we're aiming for. For me, I'd want another Champions League finish in the Premier League, because with a young squad, you can at least say, okay, this squad is always going to be around about the Champions League spots, and then we've done our job of making Leicester a Champions League top 6 team all the time. I'd like to win a Europa League or an FA Cup. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how we're going to do, so let's simulate until we find out how we did in the 5th season. Thank you for watching up to this point. Let's see how the last season goes. So here we go, the end of season 5, and we have landed after the simulation has ended on this home screen, and it looks like it's been a barnstormer of a season for Leicester. Only 5 points off the title. Liverpool and Man U were the better sides, but we've done very well to finish 3rd, ahead of last season winners in Chelsea. Arsenal and Manchester City are also way away from us. I think it's been a great year. 80 points is not bad at all. Goal difference slightly low, so maybe we're still leaking at the back. That's probably a tactical issue and probably less of a personnel issue. So I think that's something that you would definitely tweak if you were hands-on managing. If you don't know, in these rebuilds, I simulate once I've made the transfers, so I'm not in charge of the day-to-day ongoings of the club. Benjamin Sesko, though, 50 goals in all competitions. He is one of the best strikers in the world now. 24 goals in 36 in the league. Another great year for him. He is phenomenal. Rafinha and Wesley Fofana have also been key this year, and in terms of average match ratings, Livramento, Fofana, Solé, Trubin and Sesko were our best 5, with Aouar, Rafinha, Vitinha, Ruben Neves. This all rhymes, doesn't it? I think the worst part of this simulation, I've got to admit, was using James Maddison and Luke Thomas too much. I did want to stick with them because of course they are real life Leicester players, and I didn't want to get rid of every single player, But I mean, he's just not really hit the heights that he should have done, Luke Thomas. And Maddison, whilst he has been half decent for us, I mean, I say half decent, he's been pretty good over the years. He's maybe not been what he could have been if we had a different player. At 29, only 3 caps for England. He never really made it as the player we thought he could maybe turn into. But I think that's been a pretty good year for us. Did we do anything in the... We've won the Europa League. Absolutely fantastic. Right, I said I wanted to win one of the FA Cup and the Europa League. It looks like the Carabao and the FA didn't go too well, but the Europa League we've absolutely smashed. There's your win-loss draws in the league this year, by the way. Not too bad at all. Just losing a few more than we should. All against very good teams, though, mind you. We just need to be better in those big clashes. But we did win the Europa League 3-2 on the final day of the season. Shall we watch the game? I feel like that would be a good way to finish off the video. Let's see how we lined up and how we played. So let's not look at the goal scorers. Let's look at the team that we went with. It was Trubin in goal. Pereira started at the back with Varisimo, Ake and Des. So 2 of the players that we bought in for a free that should have been nowhere near the team did get the go-ahead in this game. That must have been because someone was out injured. We also had Arthur and Awar starting, so we didn't have Vitinha or Ruben Neves, which you would have expected. So again, they must have been out injured or suspended. We had Rafinha on the right, Carvalho through the middle, the youngster, Harvey Barnes on the left, and Richards. Who's Richards? Armani Richards up front. Apparently a Leicester Academy player in real life, only ever played 1 game for us. Up until that point, and then played in the Europa League final. We must have had everybody out injured that day. Can we see the bench? Why were we not playing any of these players? I'm so confused. Why would these guys not be getting used? That's very strange. I don't understand why any of these players wouldn't be on the pitch. That must be a glitch in the simulation somehow. Holjek, Sesko, Livramento, Fofana. Did they all go to a World Cup or something at the end of the year? I have no clue what happened there. I'm pretty disappointed to see those guys weren't playing because they're all far better than anyone we've got on the pitch. This was definitely our backup side. So the fact that we've won it is super impressive. Trubin on an 8.3 rating suggests that he kept AC Milan at bay more than anyone else did. But let's have a look. The first goal went in, poor defending from Desk into the box, and it was tapped in very close to the goal, to be honest. It was an easy goal after 7 minutes, but then we hit back only 7 minutes later. Harvey Barnes to Carvalho. Carvalho does well on the far left, hits it in. It's a good volley from Arthur, to be fair. Some of these players you wouldn't expect to be in the first team, but they're doing a job for us right now. Then we had a corner in the 78th. We made it 2-1 with Awar from Rafinha's corner heading home. He's only small Awar, but he did get the goal. And then the 88th minute, we're 2-1 up, and Armani Richards starts bursting forward. He plays through James Maddison, and James Maddison rifles it home. It might be one of his last few seasons for the club at this stage, but that's a good way to go out. Maybe we had something else in the Premier League that they were focusing on, and for that reason they didn't play the best team in the Europa League, but I'm sure it took place after everything else. So I really don't understand. We did concede in the 91st minute, but overall, we were happy. We went home with a title win. It doesn't matter who played, we'll take that. There you go. AC Milan had 22 shots, 13 on target. We only had 7 on target, and we won 3-2. We've done what is called an FM, or maybe if you play FIFA, a FIFA on someone there, where we do absolutely nothing, but somehow get the win. Despite that Europa League weirdness, playing the worst players that we had, it was still a great rebuild, I think. We've got Leicester to be, hopefully, a consistent Champions League side with the players we've brought in. They've got plenty of years to go yet. The average age of the squad is probably under 25, 26-ish, so I think that's great from us on that end. We've won a Europa League, we've won a Carabao Cup, and who knows, if we did this for another couple of seasons, this team might be good enough to actually challenge for that Champions League and maybe get a few points more. At the rate we were going, we could have won a Premier League if we went a few years longer, but we only do 5 years. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Subscribe, like, comment who you'd like to see next. Thank you. Thank you, Leicester, for having me as your manager, and I'll see you next time, guys. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.